Good evening, everybody. It's episode 67 of Manifesting with Meg, and I'm so glad to be here with you this evening in the month of May, Awakening to Creativity, with my incredible guest, special guest, author Diana Kupershmit. And what we have tonight is going to be all about a life led in creative abundance and so much wisdom, so much information, because guess what? She is the writer of a memoir, and she's putting out the vulnerability of her story in the world. So you guys get to understand some concepts that perhaps you may be experiencing yourself, but yet living through her beautiful eyes and Emma's beautiful laugh. So before we begin, I'd like to remind you guys this show is about transformation, dreams, inspiration, true happiness, discovering bliss. It's time to manifest your dreams. I also want to be aware that this is Mental Health and Wellness Month. So let's talk about that tonight. Like literally going through the darkness, navigating through that, coming into the light. You got to walk through. We walk through together, and it's even better together. So before we start, Diana, just set your intention. We do that. It's aligned with my book, The Magical Guide to Bliss, 366 Daily Insights to Guide Your Way. And tonight we are going to set our intention. Mine's always to have a great time and to inspire and to connect with whoever wants to listen. We have Luba Pays, my BFF. So excited, Diana. So you've got fans in the room. So even better, starting off with a bang. I love it. So I get to do the honors of introducing Diana. She is a social worker. She holds a master in social work and works for the Department of Health and Early Intervention Program, a federal entitlement program, servicing children birth to 3 with developmental delays and disabilities. So it takes a lot of patience for someone who has that beautiful talent to show up in the world like that. She has published online in the Manifestation Power of Moms, Motherwell Magazine, Still Standing Magazine, Her View from Home, and Huffington Post. So this is her first actual book, memoir, but she is well written and well out there. So after this interview, I would definitely encourage all of you to take a look at her work. Also, she is a photographer specializing in newborn, family, maternity, and event photography. She lives in New York as well. So anyone who's out there and wants to capture some incredible pictures, this lady is super talented. I definitely want to encourage you guys to go to Instagram and check out her pictures. She's a lot of fun, always got creative content, always engaging to the eye. She definitely has a creative passion for working in the photography area as well as social work. So I mean, imagine, we all can be so many different aspects of our personality. And we have Leslie and Suzanne here all saying congrats to Diana and welcome to the show. You got your sister here too. I love this. So the family affair. So so Diana, welcome. Did I miss anything?
No, you covered everything. You did great. Thank you.
Oh my
It's great
God.
to be here.
So happy to have you. And I definitely want to start off by showing this beautiful cover, that beautiful little girl of yours, Emma's Lap, The Gift of Second Chances. I know this is really amazing that you're sharing her story with the world at this point in time, because I know there's a lot of people out there who probably walked or are walking in your shoes, maybe not to the same extent, but certainly you sharing your story and your pain and your perseverance and all the gifts of your beautiful daughter, the gift of second chances, are going to help so many people. So tell me a little bit about this. How did you come about to write Emma's Lap?
Well, I started writing after she passed. And it wasn't something that I wanted to do, obviously, but I felt compelled to make sense of our 18 years with her, and the fact that she left so soon, and the struggles that we initially encountered when she was first born, and we realized that she had a rare genetic disorder and there was no prognosis. And I initially grieved the loss of this perfect, healthy baby that I was carrying, that I envisioned having. So that was the first stage of grief. And then when she passed, that was like the ultimate, grief. And so I started writing to process and to make meaning. And the words turned into paragraphs and pages. And I don't have a background in writing, so I figured if I'm going to do this, then I should get some training and learn the craft. So I started taking workshops. And I got really positive feedback, so encouraged me to continue to write her story. And then in the writing of it, 5 years later, this story unfolded. I got to reflect on the last, the 18 years that we had with her, which I wasn't able to do when she was alive, because the way I describe it is like when you're in the eye of the storm, you're not really, you don't have perspective, right?
Yeah.
It's after the storm blows over, because when you're in the storm, you want to get to the next day. You want to survive,
Survival.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after the fact, you're kind of like assessing the damage, and you're looking at the rubble, and you're trying to unearth, what remains, right? Memories and insights and that sort of thing. So that's what I got out of writing the book. I found I started writing it for selfish reasons, but I found when I finished it and when I started sharing with people, and people started reading it and giving me feedback, that people were touched by it. So even though they didn't have the exact same story, obviously, that happened to me, it resonated with them, in terms of loss maybe, or their experience, of parenting, or just, the way life sometimes hits you, where you realize that you don't have control of that many things. You sometimes barely have control over yourself, certainly not other people, and certainly not, events that happen. What you do have control over is how you deal with it, how you handle it, the how, right?
You have an incredible story anyway, because you were not born in the United States, right? You came over, I think you said in 1970, I don't remember.
79.
79, you came over as were you an asylee, or were you a refugee at the time?
We were refugees. We were Jewish refugees. We were, we were escaping religious persecution. It was very systemic in the former Soviet Ukraine. And so, the first opportunity we had, we came here. I was 9.
Wow.
And I felt very fortunate. And I think, because here I am thinking that I belong to one country, my country of origin rejects me, and then I find myself on new foreign land, and I have to learn to belong here, right? Make a place for myself. So a lot of the decisions that I made initially relating to Emma had to do with the way I was brought up, and, the whole sense of like perfectionism, right? That I strived for. And so I strived to have a perfect child. We came to this country, and I strived to, make it so that my parents did not, sacrifice for naught, right? So we had something to prove as immigrant children. We had to be successful, we had to prove our worth. And so by extension, then our children had to continue that journey, right? So when Emma was born, it was a shock to the system, because we were young, we were healthy, we didn't know anybody that had special needs kids, and we didn't know, we unraveled, we didn't know how to deal with it.
She's your first child. She's your
my first child.
So how old were you when you had Emma? I don't want to date you if you don't want to.
No, it's fine. I don't mind. I was 26.
Okay, so you were 26, and you were expecting your first. Did you know anything was happening? Did you know that anything was wrong with her, or
no signs? It was a very easy, good, happy pregnancy. They missed obviously something when they were doing the scans, because she was very small when she was born for full term. She was 4 pounds, 12 ounces.
Yeah.
And the sonograms didn't indicate that, she was microcephalic. She had a small head circumference. And I don't know how they measured her, but they, there were no signs that we were aware of. And when she was born, it was a shock, because she had some dysmorphic features. She didn't look healthy. She didn't cry. She was kind of greenish and floppy. And I immediately said to the doctors, something is wrong. And I was very careful in the way I phrased my words, because I didn't want to be, rejecting. Like, I didn't want to be maternally rejecting. Like, how does that look? If my baby is seconds old and I'm already rejecting.
Isn't that amazing that you were you were so aware of that? At the same time, I'm hearing this, and it's more like mama bear, someone better take care of my child here. Like, you're protecting her. Like, there's something going on. I need someone to help her. It sounds to me more like that, but it's so interesting that you're like wording it. I'm just hoping that, maybe that's kind of the background that you came from, making sure that your words were carefully used because, you wanted the doctors to not consider you less than a mother, which is fascinating to me because for me, I mean, I remember when I had my child, I'm like, someone better take care of this baby. Like right now, I was like really kind of like on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fast. So let me ask you, one of the most amazing things I think that for you at this point in time is the unfolding of the story. And I know you shared it with me. Maybe you can go into what happened after you did determine that Emma had a disability.
Yeah. So I did not deal well. And, ironically, I'm a social worker and I had history working with special needs kids, kids on the autism spectrum. And here I am not thinking that I can care for my own special needs child.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just, I mean, it was shameful. I felt guilty, but I was not coping well because I couldn't envision any kind of a happy life with a special needs child, with a disabled child. I didn't know that I would go on to have two more healthy children and that we could make, a life, a happy, a joyful life out of it. But at the time, I saw darkness. I saw that I was going to, because the narrative that I understood, society basically said that people with disabilities lived a tragic, sad, existence, and they were to be pitied and they were to be relegated to the margins. And I was going to live alongside her in that space. And I did not want to do that. And I didn't think that I would be the best person to care for her. So, I say it was a selfish and a selfless decision, both. When we decided the social worker at the hospital approached us because she saw that I was not doing well. And so she broached the subject of considering placing her for adoption. And my reaction was shock initially, but also guilt and shame because I thought, well, if I can't raise my own special needs child, like who would want that, And the truth is that there are people that have a calling, I learned, that do that, And so we decided that if we were going to find a good family, that we would consider it. And that's exactly what happened. We found an Orthodox Jewish family, and we visited them first. They had 3 adopted Down syndrome kids, and they had 2 boys and a girl. They wanted another girl, and they were just like so loving. And we left thinking she's going to do well there,
Yeah.
And she was 5 months old because we were waiting for the adoption to go through. She was 5 months old. Every day I visited her at the medical facility where she stayed. She stayed like in a long-term facility. And I stayed with her every day. And then she was about 5.5 months when we gave her up. And I was already pregnant with my son because I wanted a do-over, because I wanted to get it right this time. This is what I told myself.
But, I have to tell you, Suzanne's saying you are human. This is a human reaction to a very human situation. So it's interesting, and I'm saying this for the purpose of just bringing to light wellness, right? You understand where you are at the time you are, what you know at 26 years old, as having an immigrant story, like you said, having to show up into this particular situation, having just had a baby, literally just having a baby, it's a lot of hormones going on too. So it's overwhelming. And, I don't know about you, but I did not handle, pregnancy well, and I didn't handle having a baby well. I literally I kind of wanted to go back to my life again. I didn't want to, I kind of wanted to go back to everything going out with my friends. And I have a newborn, and I can't imagine, having the added, challenge of, dealing with a newborn that has a disability. So going back to what you were saying, at 5.5, she was 5.5 months and you were already pregnant again because you wanted to do it. I literally think that right now what you're saying is so incredibly honest and truth, really, because who's to judge? Nobody, at least as far as what your path was, how you walked it. So tell me a little bit more about what happened next, because I know it gets even more incredibly interesting from this point.
Right. So we give her up. It was a conditional surrender to a 2-family household, and then I find out that my husband and my parents are visiting her behind my back. Wow. Unbeknownst to each other, like separate times. And my husband makes a discovery that allows us to bring her home because the conditions under which we gave her up no longer existed. So then we brought her home. I realized that this was my do-over. This was my second chance, right? So really the story, it's a love story. It's about, rejection, acceptance, and the gift of second chances. Because I think, life, I say can be very fair. It can give you second chances. You just have to be able to see it and, and acknowledge it and take the opportunity. And so we had an incredible opportunity to reverse an adoption, which I know is very uncommon. It doesn't happen very often.
I've literally never heard unheard to me. I don't know a lot about, but I just, usually when it's always finality or whatever terms or conditions like you agree to, but that you got to take her back to you. You got to bring her home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were very fortunate because, I say that we knew what life was like with her and without her, and we preferred the former. Because I realized that we made a mistake, and that's when my husband told me he'd been visiting her and he found her, under those circumstances. So had I not had that conversation, telling him that I think we made a mistake, and I'm like this pregnant, I'm like 11 months pregnant, I'm 9 months pregnant.
It feels like 11 though. I can tell you that much, right? You're just like, get this baby out of me.
Right. It felt like 11 months. Yeah. I was 8 months pregnant with my son. And I said, we made a mistake. I think we made a mistake. And that's when he told me. And so everything, I always say, like, not that everything happens for a reason, but things happen the way they're supposed to. So if you take a detour, which we did, in our case, I did, I got a chance to kind of correct course, which I'm very grateful for. And so I swore that for, the rest of her life or my life, I was going to make it up to her, for those like 5 months lost. She came back more medically unstable than when we gave her up. She came back on oxygen. So she was on oxygen for 3 years when she slept. She came back less healthy. And so we had to get her better.
Yeah. Well, Layla is saying she's so proud of how courageous you are and being so honest about your fears.
Oh, thank you.
I think that, something when people actually are honest, like I said, vulnerable with their story, they do free other people to embrace the detours, right? And handle life differently instead of being shamed for the whole life, but actually using that as a way to, see whatever happened and make it right. And, I have to go into the cover because it says Emma's laugh, and clearly that beautiful face, that beautiful little girl. Tell me why you called it Emma's laugh.
So, she had a lot of great qualities, but our favorite, this was her signature laugh. So she was nonverbal, except for 2 words, Mama and Emma. And the best 2 words in the world. But she had this silent laugh, and this laugh like shook her whole body. Like she folded in half. I say like a marionette whose strings were, released. And she had this tremendous, lung emptying laugh. So at one point I remember I would like jump out from I'd be hiding somewhere behind a wall and I would jump out, and she was sitting on the couch one day and she literally fell off the couch. Like she rolled off she had low muscle tone, but like her laughs were debilitating. They just completely took over, and that was, but they were silent, they were silent. So, and tremendous. And so that was our, our best, her best feature, her best quality.
So her laughs were silent.
Yes.
Oh my God.
But tremendous, right?
Tremendous. I'm getting goosebumps because imagine that, someone has that kind of joy. It doesn't come out in actual sounds, but it comes out in energy. And I'm going to turn to the other part of the conversation that I wanted to talk to you about. You said you had Emma for 18 years in your life. And I don't know if you want to talk about it or just allow people the opportunity to read the story when they go and grab your book, because you're going to buy this book because you want to see how beautiful someone who goes and faces a huge challenge, especially when it deals with motherhood and children, and that yet turns this into something even more beautiful that she's going to share with so many people at this point in time. So I don't know if you want to share that part of it when she ultimately passed away, but I do want to share with everyone the beautiful spiritual connection you made with Emma when you went to see the medium, and how that opened up your life to something really magical.
Yeah. So, I think if not for my meeting with I still feel kind of weird talking about it because, I'm newly spiritual, right? Like, she passed and I was not dealing well. And one of my good friends told me about this medium in Long Island, not the Long Island medium, like a male medium.
Yeah.
And she said, I saw him and he's great. He's highly recommended. He's doing this for 30 years. Just go and talk to him. Like, you have nothing to lose. And I was already open to it because I was already reading. I dabbled. I read, James Van Praagh and John Edward. Like, I dabbled and I read some books about that.
Can I ask you how long after Emma passed away did this happen? Did you
we had a conversation like 2 weeks after she passed, and then I made an appointment to see him a month later. So literally it was a month after she passed.
Okay.
And so
question.
Yeah.
Was it a sudden passing, or was it something that you saw
well,
coming?
it was sudden because she was medically stable. And the doctor that made the prediction that she wasn't going to live past her first birthday when she was still an infant, we were kind of like middle finger in his direction because
Exactly.
Here she is, almost 19 years old. But the truth is that she developed pneumonia, and it wasn't anything that she caught. I guess like her body, she had an unproductive cough, so things must have festered. She was not ambulatory, and it's sort of like how older people are affected by pneumonia because they're non-ambulatory. She wasn't ambulatory, and so pneumonia took over, and then acute respiratory distress syndrome, and then she was hospitalized and intubated. And then we decided to extubate her because her organs were shutting down, and I believed she was suffering. We were suffering, and I felt that she was suffering. So that's how it happened. But the pneumonia, it was very unexpected because, as I said, she was medically stable. We were like, we were exhaling. We didn't think we had to worry about her health any longer.
Wow.
So I went to see the medium, but before I saw him, I already started like reading, like, do dead people see you shower, like, and everything that I could get my hands on, I started reading spiritual books.
Yeah.
Because I had to believe that this was not the end, right? Like, this could not be the end of the story, the end of the play. This cannot be the end. So I started reading, and then I made the appointment with him. And in the interim, I returned back to work very early, like 2 weeks after she passed, because I couldn't stay at home. I could see her in every corner of the house, and I needed a distraction. So I went back to work. It was a difficult day. And on my way home, I kind of I sort of mentally said to her, in our apartment building lobby, that just let me know that you're okay. Just give me a sign. I didn't expect an answer or anything. I was just whatever. I was desperate, and I was talking into the ethos.
Yes.
So I said, just let me know you're okay, right? And literally 5 minutes after I walk into our apartment, there's a package from her school. And I assumed that it's her like extra leftover clothes, because we would send extra clothes because she would chew on her clothing and bib and whatever else. So I thought they were returning her clothes. And I opened the package, and it's a framed picture of her that the teachers put together, a large frame. They blew it up. And in that picture, she used to blow kisses by like putting her lips together and like popping, like this is how she blew kisses. In this picture, she's poised for a kiss. So literally she's blowing me a kiss.
Oh my God.
In this, I know. I know. I was like, so I'm on the floor weeping because this is my sign. Wow. This is my sign. I asked her to let me know she's okay, and she did. So now I'm feeling a little bit crazy, but also hopeful at the same time, because like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And when I go to see the medium, he says to me, have you gone to see somebody else, or have you yourself connected with her? Because he's like, I'm getting the sense that you already made a connection. And I was like, I did make a connection with her. I didn't go to anybody. I connected with her myself. And he told me, and he immediately connected me with her, with my grandmother. My grandmother had passed 3 years prior, and she had lived with us for 12 years. So she was very close to Emma. Yeah. And her great grandkids, all 3 great grandkids. I was very happy to like have that gift and be able to give that gift to her at the end of her life. And so, my grandmother, so the medium says, all right, there's an older woman, like a grandmother type, and then there's a younger woman next to her. And the older woman is saying, like, basically like, she's here. We like picked her up from the airport. Everything's good. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting like, oh my God. Like,
The airport.
and then he's like, there's a dog. And did you have a dog? So you either had a dog that you lost. And then I'm getting, a Holly, and Holly's my sister's name. Like, he's just pulling stuff out, and I'm like crying because, like, he told me things that he couldn't have known had he like searched my history. I mean, there were certain things about the dog, especially, that nobody knew, not on Facebook, not, a lot of my friends didn't know. I had a dog when I was pregnant with Emma that came to a very untimely end while I was pregnant with Emma.
Wow.
And so this dog is here with Emma and my grandmother and like the whole family, the whole mishpucha, we say, right?
What did you call it?
It's a Yiddish word. Family is mishpucha, which is...
Okay, I love it.
Don't try to repeat it.
I won't. I'll probably say a different word that probably would not be as attractive. But
right.
So, like, okay, so I'm a true believer that there is so much beyond the veil, and it's only a veil. It's very thin. And the thing is, the beautiful thing about your experience, what I'm hearing, is that you had confirmation that all you have to do is ask, and they respond. And I know that because of my own experience losing my mother, but and having really kind of incredibly very like woke moments where I'm just like, oh my God, what is happening? And you feel a little nuts. But the reality is that there's more of us that are experiencing those kind of things, that the more of us, like, even like, I like to call it spiritually eclecticism. And it stems, Suzanne is like, mediums are real, and that these kids healed. I mean,
They
more
are.
people, and I think there's a beautiful, like Mary Oliver said, pay attention, be astonished, and tell about it. And that's the beauty of storytelling. And the fact of the matter is, you started writing after you went to the medium, correct?
Yes.
That's when the story started coming out for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ceci's here. Yay. Ceci's my medium. Well,
nice.
Yeah, she's the one I went to after my mom passed away, and she connected to me, to my mom. And Ceci told me, while I was like I felt like I was having a nervous breakdown. And she looks at me and she goes, your mother's saying, I thought I raised a stronger woman than this.
Wow.
She's yelling at me from beyond. Like,
That's so
get
funny.
your act together and start, wake up and come back to the world. But
yeah,
I want to go back to one of the beautiful thing about my book and the quote for today. It is Randy Pausch, and Randy Pausch is the one who wrote the last lecture. And one of my favorite quotes that he says, it's not about how you achieve your dreams. It's about how you lead your life. If you lead your life the right way, the karma will take care of itself, and the dreams will come to you. And I read that, and I'm like, it's so beautiful, because you had this experience that could have been a missed opportunity, yet how you lead your life is to turn around and take advantage of the second chance, and not bash yourself, for doing what you did, but actually embracing that, and the family comes together and you heal together again, which is, I'm sure, your children impacted from the life of your daughter Emma. You all, like, literally, I mean, I can't imagine if someone had that much energy to laugh, and the body would just, like, how much joy she brought to the family. And I just think, karma is a beautiful thing. I think, it can have one side or the other. It depends on what you choose and how you choose to approach it. But the heightened awareness, and that's what we're talking about with the medium, this heightened awareness that our actions can affect our lives in unexpected ways. And also other people's actions can affect our lives in unexpected ways as we set out to lead the best version of ourselves. And sometimes that is the best version at the time. It doesn't, like, it's what it's not necessarily that you have to be like, at the end and like just embrace it like you did anything perfectly. And then I get to go to your beautiful quotes. So let me do that really quick, because this is where the fun starts to happen. You share with me your inspiration, and you share with me your insights. And one of the quotes you shared with me that sounds to me like it comes directly from this whole approach to seeing the world. If it's not life or death, it's not life or death. And that's Abigail Thomas. Tell me what that means to you.
Yeah. The actual quote is, if it's not life or death, if it's not life and death, it's not life and death, which is this, I think it has the same meaning. But I don't know what she meant by it. If you read her interviews, she talks about, every moment being precious. And I agree with that. To me, it means that when you've experienced something so tragic, like a death of a loved one, then those moments take on a different perspective, right? So some moments have more gravity and some have less weight. And then it puts things in perspective, right? Like, is this really a life and death situation? And if it's not, then, take it for what it is, maybe a small, like an obstacle or something you can overcome, don't sweat the small stuff type of thing. So I think it's a way of, experiencing life, of being in the world, when relatively speaking, when you go through something traumatic and tragic, things are put in perspective. And I think that's what she meant by that, because she also lost her husband, and her book where she makes that statement is kind of in that vein. So
is this one of your pictures that you took? Is this one of your pictures that you've taken, or no, this is not? I don't know. It's the one of a sunset.
Yeah, I took that.
It's absolutely beautiful. And I think that it's a sunset, right?
Yes.
So, it's interesting because what I see like is a sun setting on one moment in time, yet waking to a next, and the darkness comes, and then the next morning we can always rely on the light again. It's kind of like, that whole concept, don't sweat the small stuff. You will always have another chance as long as you get the opportunity to breathe the next day. So I love this. I saw that you were perfect and I loved you. Then I saw that you were not perfect and I loved you even more. And tell me about this. Coming from your experience and having the perspective that you have with Emma and in your life, I mean, tell me about what this means to you. It's amazing. Yeah. I think it's a beautiful quote.
So yeah, I mean, I think going back to the whole, theme of perfectionism, right? So I was raised to achieve or reach for a certain sense of perfectionism, right? And so I had an understanding of what perfection is. And what Emma taught me is that, first of all, there's no such thing, and it's futile to try to even attain that. And then the other piece is that, everybody has a different definition for perfection, right? And the truth is that I learned that Emma was perfect the way she was. She wasn't broken. She wasn't that Russian nesting doll, the matryoshka that I used to play with. And I would say, like, when she would have like her corrective surgeries in the book, I talk about how are the doctors looking for her wholeness, and that wholeness is that little small nesting, the smallest whole doll, right at the center. And that's at the core, that's at her soul, right? So
that's so beautiful.
She gave me a different I have a different perspective on perfection and what that means. And we're all imperfect, we're all flawed in some way, and I think that's perfection.
Wow. Right. It sounds like what a beautiful freedom she gave you to live life differently and to actually be in the world, not of the world. It's that you're walking on your journey and you see gentler. You're not so judgmental anymore. And I think that what a gift to have that particular perspective, and what she gave you. Just I'm taking Emma's advice right now, and I think that's actually really, and and not having known her and understanding that the beauty that comes from any person is to be welcomed and accepted as the best version of that person as they stand. And this is what I wanted to go back to. It's not about what happened. It's about what you do with what happened. And that kind of ties into the whole idea of karma, right? It's as if you have experiences external to yourself and you choose how you embrace whatever possibility comes from them. And it really does come from a point in time where you stand at that moment. And I love, I always say, today was the best. My best was crap, but it was my best for today, maybe, because I really like grabbing myself, pulling myself out into the world probably was a heavy lift, right? So I say, okay, well, this is not about what happened. It's about what I did with what happened, right? So tell me a little bit about what this means to you, because I think that from your perspective, I mean, what a beautiful life and what a beautiful story you're telling to the world. And that's the whole idea of paying attention, being astonished, and tell all about it. So go ahead, tell me a little bit more about this.
Yeah, I think, initially it has to do with, well, so I think that statement is true both for life and for writing. So when I was writing my book, my writing coach, Marion Roach Smith, said to me, like, it's not about what happened, it's about what you did with what happened. So write about not just the facts, like this happened and that happened, but what you did with that information. And I
love it.
think that's true for life as well. Like, it's also, the questions that you ask yourself. So when Emma was born, we did not ask ourselves, why was she born this way? When she passed, we didn't ask ourselves, why did she pass so young? Because there are no answers for those questions. So we asked ourselves different questions, like, how do we go on? What is my why for living, for continuing to go on? And how do we do it, right? So all of these questions is
So let
what
me ask you
kept
something
us
about
going.
the why, though. I want to ask you, because that's pretty empowering, right? What you did, didn't ask why it happened. And I can tell you, having experienced loss from my mother, I was like, why? I wanted to know why. Why is this? Why to her? Why not? And it took me a long time to shift out of the why. Like, it took me a long time. And I don't, from what you're saying, that's not how you approach this whole experience. It was more of how do we create a legacy that others know her. How did you do that? Because, or is that just a part of you? That was just what you decided to do. You didn't even go there.
I mean, after she was born or after she passed?
Both times, because I think that, two really incredibly powerful life moments where you could get stuck if you keep asking the why and you want the answers. You can get stuck in an abyss, literally falling into the hole, because you're right, there's no answers. There's no answers. But at the same time, the shift, I had helpers. I had people who came to me, healers who came to me. I was praying for some guidance to get me out of where I was, because literally I had a, when my mom died, I had a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I couldn't do that to them. Like, I couldn't do that to them, but I wanted to just crawl up into a, hole and not come out. That's how it felt. Like, I think there's certain souls in your life that are so impactful and so, provide you such love and unconditional love that it's hard to think about not being with them. So how did you go from, that perspective to jumping out into, okay, now how do I live? Now, how do I live to honor her?
Yeah. So initially when she was born, there was no answer to the why, and we decided that we didn't have the luxury of not doing this difficult thing, like, and she taught us that, we can do hard things, right?
Yeah.
And that it was almost like, when people would tell me, like, when she was, older, and they would see her limitations and the struggles, we would have a very happy life, but physically it was difficult because she was growing and she was bigger, and we had back problems and we're aging and all that stuff. And we couldn't take her places because she was non-ambulatory. So there were a lot of limitations, but, ultimately, people would say to me, like, oh, you're so, how do you do this? Like, or you're so brave, or I don't think I'd be able to do that. And my answer was always like, you could. Like, if you didn't have a choice, we thought we had a choice. We gave her up, but that was not a choice, because she came back. I was supposed to, finish my journey that I started.
Yeah.
So my thing was like, if you don't have a choice, you do hard things. You do what you have to do, right? And we didn't have the luxury of feeling sorry for ourselves. And not only that, there was nothing to feel sorry for, right? Yes, I was sad when she couldn't participate, like, in the vacations, because physically it was difficult to travel with her, and she had a seizure disorder. So every time she would be overstimulated, she would have a seizure. And so we couldn't include her into, so that hurt me. It hurt me that she couldn't, get up and run after her siblings who were, like, in front of her playing. That hurt me. But ultimately, she had a good quality of life. And we had carved out, like, this family culture, and we had a narrative, and we were able to even pursue like our dreams and hobbies that we wanted to do. Like my husband and I ran the New York City Marathon, and he got to pursue his, fencing love. He fenced, and I picked up photography. So we had these full lives. We had a lot of support. We had nurses, and we had parents, grandparents, parents, and friends who accepted us and Emma. But at the end of the day, it was like we had a very happy existence. Like we carved out this great family unit, and everything was kind of according to plan, to the extent that we could plan anything. Right?
I can see here Luba's telling us that Emma was my bestie and my teacher. She didn't have to say anything to teach you love.
Mm-hmm.
Holly, she was the happiest and most loving, beautiful girl. And then, it's just amazing. It's interesting. We see that as, our children, they're coming through us, right? But the gift to the world, now that you've written this book, now her gift to the world is going to be even, her expanse or her circle of influence is even going to be that much more because of of you listening to the bray of your heart to write the story. And I want to go back to that again, because I think that, you went to the meeting. So what happened? Like, did something like switch with you when you left or what? Like you just decided, okay, now I'm going to start writing and that's it.
No, I mean, first of all, he gave me my life back because he connected me to her, so that I had something to believe in. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting in the car and listening to his recording, and I was just like, I felt so hopeful because I felt like, okay, this is not the end of the play. And he said to me, the way he described her, first of all, he said that she's a very evolved soul, that only a very evolved soul can come back to this plane in such a limiting way and fulfill whatever she needed to fulfill, or teach you whatever you needed to learn, whatever her role was, that she was very evolved, right?
Yeah.
That we can only aspire to her like high vibrations. I was like, yes, that's Emma. She was an old soul. She was nonverbal, but she was wise. And I found my voice with her because I learned to advocate for her. And then I learned to advocate for myself and speak up and ask for things that I wanted. So he totally got her. And I was like, yes, that's her. Yes, physically she was limited, but spiritually she was a giant, right? Yeah. And so I left, and I just, I was processing the whole thing. I came home. I wanted to share with my husband, and my husband, I think I shared with you, he's a devout scientist. I like to say, like, he don't talk to me about this spiritual stuff. You might as well believe in the tooth fairy, which I'm like, that's not a thing. You can't compare these two things. I took offense. I'm like, this is my belief. You can't, if I believe in the Easter Bunny or whatever, the tooth fairy or Santa Claus, you have to respect that. So we would constantly butt heads, and, but he's a scientist. He's like a realist. He's like, if you can't prove it, it doesn't exist. And I said, you know what? We're limited. We don't know what we don't know. So it's still an ongoing debate in our house, but he's more accepting of it, because I said, the truth is, again, if this medium didn't give me like hope, I wouldn't have written the book. And for no other reason, the book exists because of him. Right. So, and I'm grateful for that.
So you had two other teenagers in the house when Emma passed then.
Yes.
So as far as, how did it impact the family as far as when she was there? Like, she needed a lot more attention. And Leslie asked the questions with regard to how did they react with the attention that she needed? Were they just, that's what they understood? They were born into a family with Emma there. So I'm curious because, what kind of compassion levels do your children have at this point? I can imagine off the charts. If you have a incredible old soul in your family, literally tapping into those beautiful notions. But please speak to that if you can.
Yeah, that was just one of the gifts, of growing up in a unit with a special needs sibling, is that it did make them very compassionate. And I remember we took a trip one time to Paris, France, with Hannah and Josh, and there was a homeless person, a little boy, I think of 9 years old, and he was just like, prone, laying down next to Galerie Lafayette, which is like this fancy, department store, and his father was asking for money. And my daughter broke down. She started crying when she saw this little boy, obviously very limited and, different circumstances. And, and I knew why she was crying. But I asked her, I said, why, what's going on? And she said, I feel so bad because Emma has such a good life, right? And here's this little boy on the ground next to a fancy department store. And, so I think they're much more empathic as people. And they grew up to be like these social activists, my daughter and my son both, marchers. They march for
I love it.
for people's rights. Yeah, they're so outspoken, and I'm so proud of them. I think that had to do with them being raised and growing up alongside Emma, and and understanding that they have these gifts, right? They have abilities and they have these gifts. And it's funny because we talk about that, Emma was showing us to live one way. And so I treated her a certain way, right?
Right.
And then I treated my healthy kids differently because the expectations were different from them, right? They had abilities that she didn't have. She didn't have agency over herself. And so my goal, my role, and my job as a mother was to help all of my kids reach their potential, right? And so the bar was set a little bit higher for my healthy kids, a little bit, maybe, I went overboard sometimes, maybe a little, like they had to get into the best schools and they had to, play the instruments and they had to, right. So, but, I hope they forgive me if I was a little bit, too much in some instances. But, with Emma, so again, different expectations and different conditions, but Emma taught me about unconditional love. It's an overused term, but it's true. Like with her, there were no conditions. The condition was just to be with her, to be in the moment, to play, to laugh, to blow kisses, and conditions for my healthy kids were a little bit different because they had more skills. But, at the end of the day, this is what you want, right? You want to be able to love unconditionally, to be loved unconditionally. And that was her lesson. That was her message.
It's amazing. And I want to go to the point where, you were saying, the lessons of Emma, a life of the gifts of second chances. I want to, the journey is really kind of interesting, right? It's if we could write our own stories, what would we put in our stories, right? Would we put in this, that, and the other? And like you were saying, it's kind of like, we got an opportunity to experience through someone else's eyes that will heighten our own enlightenment, evolution. That was the gift of Emma. So I want to go back to, what makes you really, truly extraordinary at this point, because you capture through your lens, the camera lens, beautiful, beautiful pictures of families. Like I'm telling you, everyone, you have to go on her Instagram feed because clearly, and we'll put it in it's go ahead, give your @ because people really need to see how incredible the perspective, what's your Instagram?
It's at Pics by DK, PICS by DK.
Perfect. So, I think that because of your experience, you can capture beautiful moments in time that other people can't see. And I think that, it makes you go slower, makes you be able to process things. So, the whole show, this whole thing is about how to manifest the life of your dreams. And I mean the life of your dreams, each individual's dreams, right? They're not everyone's dreams. It's what you get to actually dictate to your path, to your journey. So one of the things I do love to share about extraordinary people like you is clearly you have tools, you've gained tools. Maybe you had them to, get through. You said, you had to get through the moments in time because you had to survive all the different chances. But once you finally learned how to take care of a disabled child, and literally you're a social worker, so you had an additional education to help you approach that. Clearly, I always say I don't take my own advice sometimes, even if I have the information. I completely forget everything, and I'm on starting up at square one. But you did, and so now when you're moving, like, what kind of advice can you give to other people to help manifest a life that aligns to passion and purpose now, with the lessons that you've gotten from Emma's lab to the lessons that have come since she's gone? Because I think that a lot of people now are dealing with moments in time that are really challenging, and then maybe they don't know how to navigate it as well, that they could probably use your perspective right now to help them start the process.
Yeah. So for me, I think, I think the lesson is that sometimes you find gifts where you least expected, and that was Emma, right? We didn't expect that it was going to be a gift. We literally hit the lotto with her. And then that you have to really pay attention. And for me, the intention moving forward is, and I would advise this to other people, is just to make space for those important people in your life, your children, your family, your friends. Make space for them, be there for them, listen to them. Sometimes I'm guilty of giving too much advice unsolicited, and then my sister makes sure to tell me, just listen, I just need you to listen to me and tell me things are going to be okay. So those are lessons that I'm learning. And Emma taught me, to pay attention to the moments. And I think it's good advice to give to everybody, right? Because tomorrow is not promised. Today is, you're here in the moment, enjoy it, revel in it. And yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it absolutely did. I think that literally one of my missions, I have a mission, is consciousness. And pay attention is rising to a level of consciousness of being aware of your life and not hoping for something else, but really being present in the moment that you have. And I think that that's quite beautiful because, I don't really want the world to walk around numb. I think that you missed your opportunity of your once around. I think what you just said, especially in light of the fact that, offering that sacred space to people that you love as well, to listen or to be heard, I think it's quite beautiful. And I think it's perfect. So let's go back to your intention for this beautiful hour today, because we are coming up on the end, and I would love for you to share what it was for your audience, especially, with your beautiful book and everything that's going to come into your life once it's actually into the world, which is so exciting. Because what is your pub date now?
June 15th, next month. Yeah, less than a month away.
Very exciting, very exciting. So tell me, what was your intention today?
My intention today, or my intention in general?
However you want to determine the question, it's up to you. That is your interpretation.
So I think my intention as a whole, like a life's purpose intention, is, and I'm going to quote Jen Pasteloff.
Oh, okay.
And so she says that when asked at the end of my life, what I did, let my answer be, I did love, right? So I think at the end of the day, everything comes back to that, right? And that's what you want for yourself. That's what you want for your children. You want your children to know love and to be loved. And I think that's what Emma taught us, all of us, and she brought us together that way.
That's beautiful. So what insight did you choose that would be perhaps matching the intention tonight from the Magical Guide to Bliss?
What intention? Sorry.
The insight that you picked.
The insight.
The page number that you picked for the Magical Guide to Bliss.
Oh, the number 7?
Yes. 7. So you got the insight, right?
That you emailed me?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Let me find it. And then I'll read from that page.
No, you can just read whatever you want from the page, actually, because I just want to, I'm a big synchronicity junkie. Like, I don't believe that there's any coincidences in this world. I don't believe us talking tonight is a coincidence. I don't believe that our paths cross at this moment in time as a coincidence. It's all synchronistic, and I pay attention for the magic in those moments. I think that, the Einstein quote, you could look at everything as if it were a miracle or not a miracle. And I always choose the former. I know I just badgered that, but the bottom line is that everything is synchronicity. So go ahead and tell us what you picked for your insight.
From this insight, I mean, the first thing I noticed that we are here for just a short time. This is perfect. We must remember to seize each and every opportunity. The present moment offers so much more than we can imagine as we simply open our eyes and welcome what is right before us, breaking our routines, taking chances, and becoming conscious of life's magic and miracles. I
Wow.
think that sums it up.
That
I
sounds
can't believe I just landed on that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I have to tell you, what a cool thing, because the opportunity for you to tell Emma's story with Emma's laugh and all the wonderful connections that you're going to get along the way and all the gifts that she continues to give you because you took a second chance with regard to raising her and having her in your life. Not, she would have been in your life anyway because she was in the world, but intimately in your life. And the word I was thinking about when I was preparing tonight, because I try to get my mind in it, it's the word intimacy means into me see. And it sounds to me when you're talking about Emma, she allowed you to see into her. And what an incredible sacred space, in your family. And now you're going to allow others the intimacy to see within you. And I think with that gift, you're going to be a healing force for so many who might be going through some really big challenges, because it doesn't matter where they stand. It's someone who's sharing and lending a hand, and you're doing it with your words. And I think this is amazing. So I really hate to end tonight, but I want to make sure everyone knows where they can get Emma's laugh, so we can support you, and we can support your beautiful story, and we can support Emma because she's still with us. And I want to make sure that people go out there and get your pre-sales, because for someone to take a risk with their story like this, it is really the biggest gift to have someone read it and then let it go out into the world and have a life of its own. So tell us where exactly people can find your book.
Yeah, thank you. Pretty much, anywhere books are sold. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Bookshop, you can order it from your local bookstore. You can request it at the library, pretty much anywhere. Yeah, and it's available for pre-orders, and pre-orders really help get the word out. Yeah,
and get the momentum going. So I know Emma's got her hand in all of this, literally.
Absolutely, yeah.
She's going to be playing working this party. I mean, I'm sure she was a powerhouse here, but even over there on the other side, she's going to be rocking it even more so. I want you to all understand her name, Diana, Diana. Last name is Kupershmit. Kupershmit. I do a podcast in this form as well. I want to make sure people know your name so they can grab it and they can go check it out and get Emma's laugh. Our final moments are coming. I want everyone to really contemplate this final inspiration from Diana, because she's going to send us off into this May evening, wherever it finds you, on the beach in Maui, perhaps, in a beautiful evening in New York or New Jersey, in New York, obviously, where you are, and in Miami as well. We're all over the world, and we all embrace each other in this moment. Thank you all for being here with us. So the gift of Diana is that she's going to share with us some final inspiration so that we can embrace our lives, perhaps, and remember Emma's laugh. So go ahead, Diana.
Just, love unconditionally and be there for your people and make space for people. And live your life with good intention. I think it's all about intention, and embrace the moments.
So go out there and love unconditionally. I think that we can heal so many, who knows where in the world, make a difference that'll have a ripple effect that may perhaps find its way over to the Middle East tonight, perhaps find its way to some family who needs some love. If we all just extend the unconditional love of perhaps Emma, then we can all learn well, and we can find the inspiration there in that sacred space. So Diana, I want to thank you so much for being with me tonight. This is such a pleasure to talk to you in this beautiful May evening. You are fantastic. Once again, you guys go out and support her, get her book, Emma's Laugh. It's going to be available on June. Say it again.
15th.
June 15th is going to be a magical Emma Day. We're all going to celebrate Emma together. So her legacy still lives, and we're going to honor that. Thank you again, Diana. Thank you all for being here. You guys are awesome. You are engaged, and I love that. Thank you so much. And I want you all to go out and become deliberate creators of your life. Give unconditional love to whoever needs it. Have that empathetic and passion with the world, and go out there and align your passion to your purpose. raise the positive vibrations of this world. We're in this together. Together we rise. And let me tell you, at the other end, we're all going to look back and say, this was a life well lived because I loved unconditionally. And thank you, Diana.
Thank you so much, Meg. This was wonderful.
You're
really
amazing. You guys have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.